This week's parasha, the highlight is Kriyas Yamsuf. The Yidden got close to the Yamsuf and didn't know what to do. They came to the end, they came to a dead end, they came to the Yamsuf. Hashem says to them, so Moshe Rabbeinu calls out to Hashem. Hashem says, Ma titzak elai. What are you calling out to me? Dabel b'nei Yisrael v'yisol. The Zohar HaKadosh says, on Ma titzak elai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Ba'atika talya milsa. Atika has to do with what's called Keser. It's a higher hanhaga that Hashem runs with Klal Yisrael. So therefore Hashem was saying, Ma titzak elai, don't get involved over here. This is my Indian. Don't get involved. Don't even daven. Don't even call to me. Just dabel b'nei Yisrael v'yisol. One has to understand what this really means. What hanhaga of Hashem with Klal Yisrael was revealed over here? What is this hanhaga of Keser, ba'atika talya milsa, that's revealed over here by Kriyas Yamsuf? For that we have to go back, because here this is the climax. This is the climax of the Yitzhak from Mitzrayim. It reached its final stage of Yitzhak over here by Kriyas Yamsuf. So let's go back to the beginning. In Parashat Shmois, Pari says to his people, he sees that the Yidden are multiplying, and he says, Hava nischak maloi. We have to defeat them with Chachma. Hava nischak maloi. We have to defeat them with Chachma. Nischak maloshin Chachma. What was Pari saying? Bechlal, Chazal say that Pari was, in Chachma, Pari was very smart. He was an astrologist. In Chachma, they were very big. To understand this, the Yerushalmi says in Makkas, Shalu lechachma. They asked wisdom, what do you do? What's the fate of a nefesh hachotas? Somebody, a Jew that sins, what's his fate? Chachma answered, it's bad. They asked, prophecy, nevuah, bad. They asked Hashem, the Yid should do tshuva, and we'll get back together. So you see that there is an anhaga that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has with Yidden that is higher than Chachma. Chachma says he sinned, he's had it. Hashem says, no. There's a higher hanhaga than Chachma. And that's the hanhaga that's called Keser. That hanhaga, Hashem is bound with us, and we are bound with Klal Yisrael, and we have another chance, even though we're not doing well, but we still have another chance. Paroi was trying to hide that hanhaga of Keser. Pari says, let's not go higher than Chachma. Hava nischak maloi. Let's remain with Chachma. Let's hide the hanhaga of Keser. And therefore, if we go along with Chachma, and we bring the Jews down on level, and we cause them to sin, we drag them down to the 49th level of Tumah, then Shalu l'Chachma, if you ask Chachma, what's the fate of the Jews? They'll say, that's it, they're done. Pari was trying to hide the hanhaga of Chachma. And that's why in Shmois, the Pasuk says, Vayakutsu mepnei b'nei Yisrael. And the Bnei Soscha says, Vayakutsu is hinting at the koitz of a yud. A yud, the letter yud in the Sefer Torah, has a koitz on it, and that's called a crown. So Pari was trying to take away, he's trying to hide the crown, which is the keser, the koitz, and that's the hidden relationship that we have with Hashem. And we should leave that, and we should only go along with the concept of Chachma. And that's why, in order to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, the hanhaga of Keser had to be revealed. Last week's parasha and Parashas Boy, we have the last three makkas, which are hinted in the word Boy. Beis is Arba and Choshech. Aleph is Makkas B'choros. The common denominator between Arba and Choshech is they brought darkness onto Mitzrayim. By locusts, the Pasuk says, V'chisos ein ha'oretz. V'lo yuchal liros, you can't see the land. By Choshech, for sure you can't see. In other words, there's a secret hanhaga that's about to be revealed. But it's a hidden hanhaga. And that's the hanhaga of Keser. And therefore, Arba and Choshech brought darkness. And then, the hanhaga of Keser is to be revealed. And that is Makkas B'choros. You see, Makkas B'choros, the Chazal say, we say this in Haggadah Shel Pesach, that Makkas B'choros, Hashem said, Lo yalidei malach. Nobody is interfering with this Makkas B'choros. Lo yalidei malach, lo yalidei saraf, lo yalidei shliach, el HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvoidei v'atzmoi. The Makkah of Makkas B'choros represents a higher hanhaga. Something that only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do. And that's why Chazal tell us that a bechor, the halacha is that a bechor, a firstborn, is kadosh mirechem. He's kadosh, he's born holy already. It's got nothing to do with us. We have a mitzvah to be mekadosh, to sanctify a bechor. But a bechor is born holy, which means it's an inherent holiness that's something that comes from Hashem. So Makkas B'choros, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu did that. The Arizal writes that the 10 plagues and the 10 dibros, Aseres dibros, are paralleled from bottom upwards. Makas B'choros, says that Arizal, corresponds to the first dibur of Anoichi Hashem Lekecha. What type of dibur is Anoichi Hashem Lekecha? It's not a command, it's a fact. Anoichi Hashem Lekecha. I am your God. It's a fact. We have a hidden relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anoichi begins with the letter Aleph. Aleph spells the letters Pele. Pele is wondrous. That's Keser. So Parshas Boy, the base is Arban Choshech. The Aleph, which is Pele, spells the letters Pele, that's Makas B'choros. And there, this hidden Hanhaga of Keser was revealed, and with that we left Mitzrayim. That's why it says in Haggadah Shel Pesach that the Tanoim went to Rabbi Akiva for Leil Seder. He was the Mara, the Asra, the Rov in Bnei Brak. And even though Rabbi Akiva was a Talmud of some of those Tanoim that came to him, nevertheless they all came to Rabbi Akiva. Because for mitzvahs Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, for being able to understand the full scope of Yetzias Mitzrayim, you need to hear this from Rabbi Akiva. Why? Why Rabbi Akiva? But the answer is, the Gemara says in Menachos, that Rabbi Akiva knew to darshan the crowns on the letters. He knew how to darshan the crowns on the letters in the Sefer Torah. Rabbi Akiva's doiresh ksorim, say Chazal, which means Rabbi Akiva understands the hanhaga of Keser. He understands the hanhaga that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bound to us at all times. That's why he laughs when he sees a fox leaving the place of the Kodesh Kadoshim after the Churban, because there's a hidden kesher which we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we're inseparable with Hashem. So that's why if Rabbi Akiva knows how to darshan the crowns, then he knows how to darshan Yitzias Mitzrayim as well. Because Yitzias Mitzrayim is where the Keser, it's where the crowns was revealed. So therefore, that's why when it came to Kriyas Yamsuf, which is the climax, and here there was a kitrug at the Yam. There was a terrible kitrug against Klal Yisrael. Halalu oivdei avodah zara, halalu oivdei avodah zara. Why is the sea going to split for the Jews and not for the Egyptians? They're both avodah zaras. It's true. Chochmah tells you halalu v'halalu. They're both the same. That's chochmah. But here by Yitzias Mitzrayim is revealed a higher Hanhaga, which is a Hanhaga of Keser, which is beyond Chochmah. Just like the crown is perched on the king's head, Chochmah is inside and the crown is above. The crown is a Hanhaga. That's the Hanhaga of Atika. And therefore that's what Kriyas Yamsuf came about. If the beginning of Mitzrayim was Vayikutsu, when Paro hid this Hanhaga and says, let's not go higher than Chochmah, over here the Hanhaga of higher than Chochmah is coming out in its full glory. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, don't interfere. Hanhaga of Keser is me. Don't interfere. Don't even daven to me. Don't even cry to me. Don't even call out to me. You'll see that there's a certain Hanhaga that we have with Hashem. And this is the Hanhaga the Kabbalists say, that in Parshas Shmois, where Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, the name Eke Asher Eke. And Rashi's there says, I will be with them in this exile, I'll be with them in all future exiles. That's the Hanhaga of Keser, Chazal say. Eke is the name of Keser. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every Yid, in wherever he is, and wherever matzav he is, there is a certain anhaga, there is a certain relationship that we have with Hashem that defies all logic. The more we moisten nefesh for our avodas Hashem, the more we show sacrifice, which also defies logic, the more we awaken the hanhaga of HaKadosh Baruch Hu with us that is higher than Chochmah, that defies logic. That's why before Makas B'choros, Hashem gave us the mitzvah of Mila. Mila is like Mesiras Nefesh. We spill blood. Mesiras Nefesh defies logic. The mitzvah of Korban Pesach, the Jews went and took a lamb in front of the Egyptians. It was a Mesiras Nefesh. And the Egyptians asked us, what are you doing with this? Oh, we're going to slaughter your God. This defies logic. Mesiras Nefesh. The more we show that our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu also defies logic, is also higher than Chochmah, the more we awaken the Hanhaga that HaKadosh Baruch Hu with us, that's for the Hanhaga of Keser, that's also higher than Chochmah. And with that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls out to every Jew, it doesn't matter what matzav he's in. Hashem calls out to all Jews, do tshuva, shuvu banim, come back to me. We're in the weeks now of Shoyavim. The Pasuk says, shuvu banim shoyavim. In other words, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is calling out to us, especially in a Parshas Beshalach. And even if there's a kitrug chas v'shalom of halalu v'halalu, nevertheless, if a Yid gets close to Hashem and sacrifices for Hashem and does tshuva, Hanhaga, is then we'll be Zoichem Etz Hashem to the Gula Hashlema and to the full revelation of the Hanhaga of Eka She'eke B'meher B'yameinu. Amen v'amen. A good Erev Shabbos.